Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's Tuesday morning, and so far no one has pulled the fire alarm here at the studio, so we're up and about. That means there's no Nazis about, apparently. We've got a Jamal Bowman update for you coming up. In the meantime, we'll also, at 6:05, talk to Daniel Turner, Power of the Future. 6:35, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch. 7:05, Janine Eunice, Litigation Counsel for New Civil Liberties Alliance, about the Gavin Newsom situation there. You'll see. It's a big legal battle out there in California. But we win. The good guys win. Freedom of speech wins in California. He wants to be president, Gavin Newsom. 8:05, Ron Charles, speaking of freedom of speech. He is a Washington Post book reporter, and he's championing the Banned Books Week in D.C. You'll never guess what books have made it to the banned book. Which books have been banned in this country again? I forget.
I believe To Kill a Mockingbird is one of them.
That would be in Gavin Newsom's
leftists,
California.
yes.
Yeah. We'll have to see. We'll talk about the Banned Books Week celebrated by libraries across the country because of all the banning. That might be a spicy conversation we have.
Yeah,
actually.
we need to examine the definition of the word banning, though.
I am Larry O'Connor, alongside Julie Gunlock. Julie.
Good morning.
We had so much yesterday on the D.C. front with Biden's brain breaking over the weekend, the resolution on the continuing spending for 45 more days, the infighting between Gates and McCarthy, the fire alarm, the nomination of the Maryland woman to be the senator of California. That's a lot.
It was a busy day.
But we need to update everybody on the case of Scott Ziegler, the superintendent of schools in Loudoun County.
You say
Virginia.
that is a local issue, but no, this is a nationwide. I mean, they're watching this everywhere.
Yeah, and they had been watching and covering it. And no, we're not the only ones who listen, we've only got a certain number of hours, and we got to get to all these things. Late Friday, a jury found former Superintendent Scott Ziegler guilty of using his position to retaliate against a teacher. Why Aaron Brooks was the teacher. Why was that teacher retaliated against? Well, because she cooperated with the grand jury investigation into the mishandling and covering up of sexual assault in the Loudoun County school system, most specifically at the hands of a gender binary young man who wore a skirt into a girl's room and assaulted a young girl.
And then he was transferred and he assaulted another girl.
Right. It obviously was mishandled. It was covered up. The parents weren't told about it. It led to that infamous school board meeting where they were going to finalize their transgender policies. Scott Smith, the father of the girl, wanted to speak, and instead they shut down public comment and had him arrested.
Yep.
And had him face prosecution from Buddha Bibarai, the Democrat Commonwealth's attorney out there, until he finally, thankfully, gratefully got a pardon from Governor Glenn Youngkin just a couple of weeks ago. But Scott Ziegler understands something here, and this is why this is so critically important to point out. A jury just found him guilty of inappropriately firing a teacher who told the truth. This teacher told the truth about the situation. He fired her. He's now been prosecuted for that and found guilty by a jury of his peers. The school board knew all of this. They knew everything. And they renewed his contract and gave him a raise. They knew all of this. They gave him a raise and knew all of it. And had we not been pushing back, had we not demanded the truth, and by we I mean the people, the citizens. I don't mean we, this radio station. I mean the citizens and parents and taxpayers of Loudoun County. Had they not demanded transparency, and had we not won the election and gotten a governor and an attorney general who demanded a thorough investigation of these events, we never would have gotten the facts out. Scott Ziegler would still be the superintendent of schools in Loudoun County. But now some modicum of justice has been done.
Yeah, this teacher deserves a lot of credit because she also didn't just tuck tail, disappear, get another teaching job. She fought this, and what she did, prosecutors were really good about laying out this timeline of retaliation against this teacher. And all she was trying to do was to warn the administration that a special needs student was grabbing her private parts as well as another teacher's assistant private parts. And instead of dealing with this student, at one point, they provided her a piece of paper or a cardboard a piece of cardboard that she was supposed to put in front of her private parts, and it said like don't touch on it. This was there, literally. This was there. They go to a U-Haul, they pick a big brown box, they cut it out so that she can hold it in front of her body. This is how they dealt with it. And then then when she tried to again explain that this was happening, she was retaliated against.
Yeah.
He fired her.
And he lied about her.
He lied about her. He lied about why he fired her.
The school board said, "Why'd you fire her?" He said, "Because she turned over this information to a conservative activist." By the way, that shouldn't have been a fireable offense had it been true, but it wasn't true. She turned over information to a grand jury.
Yeah.
She was fired because she told the truth to a grand jury. Scott Ziegler is a despicable human being.
Again, in addition to this, like, no, don't touch, it said no hands on this piece of cardboard she was supposed to put in front of her. They also offered to buy them dog groomer. These two teachers, the administrators told them they would buy them dog groomer aprons to wear to slow down penetration instead of actually dealing with this situation. She then went, she's in this article I'm reading, at a loss of what to do. She went to Ian Pryor and asked him to read a letter to the school board expressing that there were two teachers. This was one of the advocates, a teaching assistant, Lori Vandermeulen, and asked him to read. And that was another part of the retaliation, because this teaching assistant went to Ian Pryor and said, we need help because the school won't help us.
Which is different than this teacher who ended up getting fired and he lied about her. The point is, he's now facing jail time, as well he should. Mm-hmm. And I just want to reiterate, because there's an election coming up. There's an election happening right now. Voting is happening right now in Loudoun County. And if you, at this point, aren't motivated to vote in the school board elections, I don't know what more to tell you.
Yeah.
But this school board, they have two options. They can either say, yeah, we knew all about Scott Ziegler and his behavior and the lying and the totalitarian, authoritarian behavior of firing a teacher for telling the truth about the sexual assault of a little girl. Let me reiterate.
Yeah.
We knew all about it, but we still think on the whole that he deserved to be rehired and promoted and given a raise. They have that option, or they can claim that they didn't know. They can claim, well, he lied to us. We didn't know. We thought he was fine, but it turns out he wasn't. You can take that second path if you'd like, but if that's the case, do you really think they deserve to be reelected for 4 more years on the school board if they're so incapable of doing their due diligence about, one of their only responsibilities, which is to evaluate the performance of the school superintendent? Either way, this school board and everyone who stood by Scott Ziegler needs to be voted out of office. And this is how you make immediate change in Loudoun County.
Yeah, we have this testimony of these teachers who came forward and said that they had, again, been groped by this student. But think of how many teachers haven't come forward. We know that there is a culture of fear among, many public school teachers because of the unions.
Yeah.
And because of this sort of, hey, just, the minute you speak out, oh, you're what are you, conservative? So there is a culture of silence. And I just wonder how many stories like this have not been told.
Yeah. And by the way, Ian Pryor got information without naming names, but just said this happened.
Yes.
At a school board meeting, and the next day, this teacher faced retaliation across the board.
Oh, yeah.
Across the board, at the direction of Superintendent Scott Ziegler, and eventually she was fired. This man is a terrible human being, and doesn't deserve to be anywhere near a public school system.
It's actually terrifying that he, for so many years, was around children.
Yep. It is 5:15. Now you're up to date on the latest out of Loudoun County schools. Vote accordingly. It's 5:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the 5s, here's Jamie Whitten in the Hadid carpet cleaning traffic. It's kind of fast.
It'll do.
It's a little... I prefer a slower groove.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, if there's porn music, it means we're talking about the Virginia race
Democrats
for the House of Delegates. Democrat Susanna Gibson, as you know, is a porn star. She sells sexual favors online, visual performances of her sexual exploits for money. So obviously she's
the
perfect.
more you pay,
The more
the
you
more
see.
you get.
Yeah, sure.
No, not just see.
Anyway, latest poll came out since the porn scandal. By the way, I just want to point out, before I give you the results of the poll and what's going on with Susanna Gibson, that's her name, Democrat, running for a open seat, as it were.
Yeah. No.
Down near Richmond.
Larry.
What? It's
Keep going.
It's a
Keep
swing
going.
district. And if she wins, it'll really be a swing district. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying
I
to be
just want to
serious.
point out
This is a serious news story. Let's be serious.
before this is serious news. Before I tell you the results of the latest poll, we have our first poll, and no, she's not dancing on the poll. It's a totally different kind of
It's
poll.
going to take a while to get through.
This is the first poll since the story broke. But I just want to say, looking back now, it's been, 2 weeks, I think?
Yep.
Maybe 2.5 weeks. Can you name me the Democrat in Virginia who has distanced themselves from... I know that Abigail Spanberger has deleted posts
Yes, that's
from
true.
her Twitter, but she hasn't said anything.
Tim Kaine.
Hasn't said anything. I don't really know her. But he hasn't said this is wrong.
Right.
Not one Democrat,
Right.
either
right.
running for office or holding elected office, has said what she did was wrong.
Well, can we also just take a moment to consider the fact that there's a poll now, right? There was actually a poll to see like if her numbers have changed when she hasn't resigned. She didn't back out.
Oh, no. At any other time in American politics, this kind of scandal would force somebody off of the ballot. But no. All right, so here's what it shows. Republican David Owen, who has the Republican nomination, currently has 49.5%, 50% basically. And Ms. Gibson has 39%. So he's up by 10 points now in the district. Mm-hmm. The unfavorability rating for Ms. Gibson is now increased 12.5% to 45%.
Yeah.
Her favorability rating has declined. You know what? I'm happy to hear that her favorability has.
Yeah, and I know that probably a lot of those favorability people who like think she's pretty okay are probably her clients. So that explains.
You're kidding? She's fabulous.
What's not to like?
Cha-ching. Now, apologists for the Democrats who, once again, have not stepped forward to say what she did was wrong. Will say, well, listen, there's nothing illegal about it. And that's sadly, we have reached a point in our society where the bar is, if it's not illegal, then it's not wrong. All right.
Well, and even things that are illegal, like pulling fire alarms, apparently you can excuse those away. But
Who are
fair
we to
enough.
say, right?
But fair enough. Let's say yes. You
But-
have to, yeah.
But is it legal? That's
No,
the question.
yes.
I mean, last I checked, taking money for performing a sexual act
It's called prostitution.
from a stranger is prostitution.
Yes, and until the libertarians are in charge, it's going to stay illegal.
Now, the American Accountability Foundation has filed a complaint and asked for a full criminal investigation from Virginia State Police Superintendent Gary Settle and for the Attorney General, Jason Miyares, to investigate whether Ms. Gibson non-consensually included hotel workers in content she posted to the adult site Chatterbait. Specifically, we're concerned that they solicited payment for the non-consensual inclusion of third parties into the sex videos. We note that there is reporting that during the videos, Mr. and Mrs. Gibson proposed filming sexual interactions with hotel staff without their consent. I don't even want to peel that layer back.
Good God.
But we shall see, actually. So everybody says, well, there's nothing wrong with it because it's not illegal.
Consensual.
Actually,
It was
could
just
very
it
well
was a
be.
loving, relationship between a husband and a wife. That's my favorite excuse.
Yeah, we believe there are possibly further videos of the Gibsons non-consensually involving third parties in their sex acts. The bottom line is, for the people in that district, this is the issue now that they're voting on. Not on taxes,
I
not on
see.
transportation. Not on
I see. Here's what she was going to do. Viewers, Gibson allegedly told viewers that she would order room service at a hotel and have the delivery person come in and see her
Walk in
naked.
on them, yeah.
So that's the sort of third person, non-consensual. Larry's like, what's the problem?
No, I'm not. I did not say that. I was just waiting for you to finish your thoughts. It's 5:22.
Making sense of your world.
Thank you for your clear insight.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
This is a major wake-up call.
Making sense of the news.
My brother. Speaking of porn and illicit sexual behavior, Hunter Biden, the son of the president of the United States, smartest man the president's ever met,
Right.
frequent guest at state dinners at the White House
Yes.
and on state trips to
That's
Dublin,
right. Yes.
representing the United States of America.
Air Force One.
Hunter Biden expected to plead not guilty in federal court today. He was charged, of course, on gun charges, the lowest of low-hanging fruit. He was set to appear at 10 a.m. this morning in court for his arraignment. And, of course, he's not guilty because – I'm sorry, what's the – there's no defense here, right? He's just absolutely guilty as sin.
Yeah.
There's no wiggling. But, no, we're going to waste time in a court. We're going to waste money. We're going to spread this out and drag it out because – well, because public service, the Biden brand. That's why.
And who is Hunter Biden suing? He's suing someone for having the audacity.
He's suing the owner of the computer shop.
That's it.
For turning this over to the FBI, and then eventually, after the FBI
And
did
he's
nothing,
suing someone else for in the media. I thought for losing his privacy. I can't remember who that is. But anyway,
I thought it was just the computer shop owner. So there you go. That's the latest on Hunter Biden. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch will be coming up at 6:35 to discuss that and other matters. Keep it here. We have a story about a girl who was missing. She's been found, but it raises questions about the free-range parent movement, and we'll discuss next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
5:36 on O'Connor and Company Tuesday morning at 6:05. We're going to speak with Daniel Turner, Power the Future. 6:35, Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch. 7:05, we'll speak with a representative from New Civil Liberties Alliance over a long fight against the totalitarian Gavin Newsom in California. And then at 8:05, Ron Charles, Washington Post book reporter, who's going to talk about so-called Banned Books Week here in D.C. On all the banned books. Yeah, you're right. We're going to have to work on the definition of banned.
Yeah.
I am Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. And Julie, people were sort of gripped on this story coming out of the state of New York regarding a little 9-year-old girl named Charlotte Senna. She was missing. Let me cut to the chase. She's been found. She's been found near her home in a state park, Morrow Lake State Park in New York. That's where she disappeared. She has been found. She's safe. She's healthy. She's being evaluated. But the kidnapper, she was kidnapped. The kidnapper had left a note in the parents' mailbox for a ransom. And again,
just terrifying.
Happy ending. She's been discovered. They're questioning the suspect, and there will be arrests and all that jazz. But it raises all of these questions. We talk about the free-range parent movement and how kids aren't allowed to just go play outside anymore. Kids can't go, hanging around the neighborhood for hours on end like I used to when I was a kid, and so many of us used to. That we can't let our kids just walk to the park on their own or walk to school on their own. We got helicopter parents dropping the kids off and all that stuff. And it's because of this fear, which is rare. It is rare, but nobody wants to be that one unicorn moment, that one horrific. Nobody wants to be these parents. And so you see a story like this, and it's like, that's it. I'm never going to let my kids out of my sight.
It also doesn't help what's going on in the schools and what's going on in public libraries. You used to be able to sort of drop your kid off the library. You go to you'd take a right to the adult section. You'd say, hey, kids, go over and go to the stacks and pick out some books and sit on the little colorful rug. And now in public libraries, the most prominent displays of Gender Queer and Lawn Boy and all these books designed for, woke baby. These are designed for very young children. So you've even got to hover over them in the library, and not to mention schools where you could get an activist teacher telling them that, hey, let's talk about why Johnny's actually a girl. It's terrifying. So it does, I will say, stories like this, plus just our culture and how how teachers have become activists now, make us all very nervous and feel like we have to hover. But this is the thing. Look, this is a horrifying horrifying story. Apparently, this little girl was kidnapped. She was found in a trailer beside or behind this man's mother, who lived in another trailer adjacent to it. She was in some cabinet. The authorities say she's in good health, but it's terrifying.
She'll be traumatized by this.
Of course. Yeah. And so these are very, very scary stories. But the truth is, and we need to remember this, crime is actually down from the 90s. There's been some anomalies. I'm talking about crime towards children, like kidnapping, sexual assault, that kind of stuff. Right. And yes, I know it's terrifying. We all worry about the white van that pulls up and snatches our kids, right? And it really is hard to say, wait, well, let me think about the data when you're watching your kid ride their bike alone, right?
It's cold comfort to any parent to hear, this is very rare.
But we need to also remember, we're trying to do what's good for kids and giving them some amount of freedom. And look, I think parents have to be comfortable with this, but some amount of freedom is actually good for kids, okay? This hovering, this constant monitoring of kids, where are you? Let me follow you. Let me go with you. Let me hover over you. That's actually not good for kids. So I know it's hard.
You got to find the happy medium.
You have to find what you feel comfortable with. And look, if you live in a neighborhood that's safe and you feel comfortable letting them ride their bike, take that step. I know it's hard, especially in light of stories like this.
It is. It's terrifying, but you're right. I remember when we first started talking about the free range parent movement, because there was a mom in Silver Spring who was literally Child Protective Services came to get her because she let her kids walk to a park 3 blocks away, and someone called the cops on the mom. And when I was like, this is crazy, this is ridiculous, let kids be, so many people called into this station saying, but what about the Lion Sisters, which was just a few miles away, White Flint Mall, Rockville.
I still think about that story.
Those little girls kidnapped in the 70s. We just, solved the murder in 2017. The guy finally pled guilty to it. And all it takes is that one incident.
Look, and we obviously with the, in the 80s, the kidnapping of Adam, the father started the Missing and Exploited Children organization.
Yes,
Adam.
I forget his name too,
exactly. You know who I'm talking to. Look, it was a scary. Children on the milk cartons. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
24-hour news coverage. All of this stuff created this sort of sense of alarmism and fear around parenting. But again, this sort of living in constant fear does that. Kids pick up on that. Yeah. And so letting kids explore their area, let them take risks. This is good for kids, but it's a little bit hard of a message to convey to parents in light of stories like this, which will, people will be thinking about this every time they see their kid getting on their bike to go run around the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know. And it's and sadly the additional coverage and all of the images and all of the pictures, it's gonna break people's heart, and it's gonna make them even that much more terrified. And that's understandable, because you don't want it to be your kid.
But don't forget, this also leads to situations like what I had. Bethany Mandel, frequent guest and co-host on this show, she's also dealt with people harassing her. I left my kid in the car for 10 minutes, windows down. I ran into the grocery store for literally 10 minutes. And again, it was 55 degrees out, and I got threatened by this FBI agent in a parking lot. Like it can lead to overreactions and harassment of young mothers.
This is also indicative of just the overall violent crime crisis we have in this country here. We're waking up to learn that a sitting congressman was carjacked in D.C. When your society is shaken by violence around you all the time, your instinct is to hug your children and never let them go, and that's completely understandable. Well, happy Banned Book Week, everybody. The Banned Bookmobile Tour 2023 will be stopping in Washington, D.C., as Washington, D.C. libraries have created their own Banned Books Week theme. It's called Freedom is Not Guaranteed. And let's be clear, when librarians here in Washington, D.C. talk about freedom, the Let Freedom Read Day is coming up, by the way, this Saturday, October 7th, where the American Library Association across the country and activists will be taking action against censorship. But let's be clear, when they talk about freedom and censorship, they're talking about books like Genderqueer, All Boys Aren't Blue, Lawn Boy, This Book is Gay. These are all books that have explicit visual sexual images, and they want children to see them. They want children to see them without parents' consent. And let's be clear, if you as a parent decide that it's inappropriate and not age appropriate for your children to have access to these books without your consent and supervision. They're saying that you're banning these books.
No. Yes, absolutely.
But these books are 100% available. For those parents who do think it's right, let them go ahead and get these books on their own for their kids.
For these
no
weirdos,
book is banned.
Weirdo parents who
No
think that
book
it's
is banned.
appropriate for your child to see depictions of sexual violence, molestation, pedophilia, fine. Go ahead on Amazon. Bezos is happy to sell those to you. I also want to address the word banned. In Randy Weingarten, union thug that she is, she's spreading tons of misinformation about this, and she says, "Oh, all these books are," and she'll pick up a book and say, "This book is banned." Many of these books are still in the nation's school libraries, okay, but for some of those books that are more adult in nature, okay, she includes in her definition of banned books that have been removed from shelves temporarily so that they can be reviewed for age appropriateness. So maybe a parent complains or maybe a teacher complains. So they take the book off temporarily just to review it. She considers that banned. Books that have been moved to a guidance counselor's office due to their pornographic content. So again, in the library, both seniors might go in this library, but also freshmen. That's a wide age range. In middle schools, in middle school, you start middle school when you're 11 or 12. So some of these books have been moved to safe areas so that only the older kids. That's considered banned by Randy. Yeah. Books that need a parental notifications before checkout, that's banned. Right. Books that are reserved only for older students, literally you cannot check them out unless you're 16, 17, 18. These are considered banned. So you understand that Randy is including books that are still in school libraries, but might have some restrictions put on them because, I don't know, they show sex in the books, or they show rape, or, very disturbing content.
And when we say show, let's just be clear. It's not just
These are
words
graphic
describing.
novels.
These are graphic novels. So it's images, it's pictures, it's drawings of it's pornography.
Yeah.
In a release from the D.C. Public Libraries, the library system referred to this week as a call to action as attempts to, quote, ban books, especially those with LGBTQIA plus themes, and that tell the experience of communities of color have increased significantly in the past year, unquote. Of course, it's all about racism. Let me just be clear. If these were graphic novels depicting, heterosexual sex and straight sex, we would be against that. Too.
Should we put Hustler in?
Yeah.
Well, seriously.
It just so happens that these books all have gay themes because people who write about gay themes apparently can only write about explicit sexual activities, which doesn't reflect well on the gay community, by the way.
Right.
Just FYI. So the Washington Post book reporter Ron Charles wrote in his newsletter on Monday about Banned Books Week. He said, "Do you smell something burning?" He said Banned Books Week is the literary community's chance to re-energize the fight against bigotry, anti-intellectualism, and cultural desecration. Apparently, those of us who think that parents should be able to use their judgment and actually suggest that a book is not age-appropriate for their children is, in fact, a bigot, anti-intellectual, and responsible for cultural desecration. Real fast, that man who said that and wrote that, Ron Charles, he'll be joining us on this program coming up at 8 o'clock.
I would encourage everyone. IWF just tweeted out sort of a compilation. It's this sort of collage of photos from some of these books, and you will see. I will tell you, IWF actually tried to buy an ad on television showing some of these. Again, images that are in school libraries, and we were told no, it's way too much sex.
Right, it's inappropriate for the viewership. It's against their FCC license. Let me describe to you exactly the pictures that Julie's talking about. Oh wait, I can't, because we would lose our license here on WMAL. At 8:05, Ron Charles, Washington Post reporter, he'll explain why those books that I can't describe to you, an adult right now on the radio, should be available to your 10-year-old child without your consent. I'm looking forward to that conversation at 8:05. Right now, it's 5:53.